So firstly, I have to apologize. Um, this is for the crappy quality in the voiceover. This is recorded on my laptop webcam, and I thought it had sound, but it turns out it doesn't. I ran a couple tests and then decided I'm just going to do a voiceover after the fact and talk about my workout while I watch it back. So if it's a little bit awkward, that would be why. So I've split this workout up into a few portions. Right now, we're going to see the sort of pre-workout warm-up. Right now, I'm just doing a rotator cuff exercise. So I'm doing 10 of these. This is a don't really know what it's called. It's just a rotator cuff twist, I guess. Just forward and back 10 times, and then I'm going to superset it with some arm raises, 10. I'm just using these dumbbells because it feels weird not to hold on to anything. Just to let you know, these are just 5-pound dumbbells. You don't need to go heavy on this. It's just to get your shoulder muscles kind of warmed up and get the joints kind of lubricated. That way you're not going in cold. Doesn't really take a whole lot, but that's what I do. You'll see here I'm grabbing a band. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it around the squat rack, and then I'm going to do some shoulder pulls. So I'm going to do 10 on each side, and I'm basically just pulling it across my body and a little bit overextending to my back, just focusing on those sort of rear shoulder muscles. And I'm going to turn around and do 10 on the other side. And Normally I'm not too worried about which direction I'm facing, but here I'm just sort of turning around so you can see the backside. And so 10 on the right, 10 on the left. So once that's done, I'm going to unhook it. And what I'm going to do next is do some shoulder circles. And most people don't do this with a band, but I find it helps a lot. Unfortunately, this room is a little bit cramped that I'm doing it in. That's why it looks a little awkward because it was. Usually I do it off to the left there where there's a lot more ceiling room, ceiling height. Then I can get a nice good rotation. But essentially I'm just doing 10 of these. One set, quote unquote, set is considered one back and one forward. So altogether there's about 20 rotations. Remember, we're just getting the shoulders warmed up here. We don't want to injure ourselves, and just make sure that the rotator cuff is ready to go for some intense squats. So I'm pretty much done with the shoulders, I think. There's a few stretches later on, but right now I'm just going to start getting my legs warmed up, getting my hip joint, ankle joints, and knees moving. So right now I'm just getting some blood flow into my legs. I'm going to do 10 body weight squats here. Very low quality, as you can see. Not super great, but they'll do. Now I'm going to do 8 lunges, 4 on each side. Sometimes I do 16, 8 on each side, and sometimes I do 20. It really depends on how I'm feeling, how my legs are from the previous run, the previous day, or the workout 2 days prior. But essentially, I'm just trying to get my muscles moving, get some blood flow into them. Yeah, this is something that I just do. I don't know if I recommend anyone else to do it. I'm just basically putting my leg on the spotter on the safety there, my foot, and then pulling up on the bottom just to stretch out my hip joint. I've got really, really bad hip joints, so it makes it difficult to squat. So I do this to try and loosen them up a little bit. Usually it doesn't work. So right now it looks like I'm preparing for a squat, but that's not actually true. What I'm doing is I'm stretching out the front of my shoulders by putting my hands in the positions where they're going to be for a squat and pushing my body forward, just to try and get the bar down to the low bar position. I'm going to hold it for probably about 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds, and just keep pushing deeper into that position, um, just to get a stretch in and make sure that my body is ready for squats. Right now, it's kind of tough to see because of the angle, but I'm actually putting my hand along the bar, and I'm pushing it outward so that I can stretch the inside of my shoulder and my chest muscles. Like I said, it's very difficult to see, but basically my arm is just parallel with the bar, and I'm just twisting my upper body just to stretch that front of my shoulder. I think everybody's seen this stretch at some point in their life. Just stretch out the back side of the shoulder here. I believe after this, I think I've probably stretched all of my muscles on my shoulders, or at least all of the important ones that I'm going to be using for squats and for bench press today. Okay, yeah, so this is a little bit tougher to see. I moved on to to the ankles and calves. I'm actually stretching the back leg. So you can see that my back heel is completely planted to the ground, and I'm pushing forward with my hips, trying to stretch out the calf of my back leg. And I'm going to do that on both sides for probably about 10 seconds. At this point, I'm actually just stalling, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do next. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to do more calf stretches, but I have to bring the camera over to the bench, point it towards the stairs so you can see what I'm doing. So hopefully this looks okay. Essentially what I like to do here is just sort of step down with my back leg with the ball of my foot and push my heel down. I'll hold it for about 5 seconds, and then after that I'm going to push hard, pushing my hips forward, pushing my heel down, and repeat that on both sides. You can do that as many times as you feel is necessary. I've worked on ankle mobility a lot, so my ankles are pretty good. They're not great, but they're okay. Um, I don't have too much of a problem with them, so I don't spend a whole lot of time. My shoulders and hips are the worst. Yeah, sorry about the glaring lights. Like I said, it's a really low ceiling. That's all we have for lights, unfortunately. Um, so I wear the hoodie at the beginning of my workout because I want to get my muscles and my body as warm as possible during my warm up. Um, this way, I'm not going in cold and I'm less likely to hurt myself. You can actually see right now I'm actually taking my pre-workout. So I've done the warm-ups that I'm going to do before my warm-up sets. I know that sounds kind of funny. And now I'm just taking my pre-workout, and that should kick in right about when am in the middle of my squats. The only reason I keep my hood up is not to get my head hot, but the hood being down actually interferes with the positioning of the bar on my back. I don't really like it, so I keep it up for that reason. I think next I might do some, yeah, I'm going to do some raised arm body squats here just to get a little bit more warmed up. I should have done more squats during my warm-up, and these are terrible, which is kind of a foreshadowing. We're going to see how bad my barbell squats are in a minute. So here I am setting up. It looks like I'm setting up for a squat, but I'm actually just doing more of this shoulder exercise. I wasn't quite ready. My shoulders relaxed now from the warm-ups that we were doing previous, and I want to stretch it out a little bit more. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm pushing forward and then slowly stepping into the spot where I will unrack the bar. And if I feel a lot of pain or a lot of tightness, I'm going to step out, wait a few seconds. Maybe here I'm pulling on my shoulders just to sort of stretch them out. Might do a couple other things and then I'll try again. And I'm not going to start my squats until I can comfortably get myself underneath the bar. So here you can see I'm doing it again. Same thing here. I can't remember if this is the last one I do. We'll see in a minute. If I start the squats, then we've essentially started the 5x5 at that point. It's about 10 minutes and 30 seconds in. I have unracked the bar, so we're going to start squats. So you're going to see some pretty terrible low bar squats here. Not quite hitting parallel. Very difficult with an empty bar. I essentially lose my balance a lot. I just try my hardest. Still have a lot of work to do in this region. It's essential just to maintain your form as best as you can and just try to get them nailed down. So for Stronglifts 5x5, I'm currently squatting, I believe it's 175 today, which means that I need to do 2 warm-up sets with an empty bar. 1 warm-up set with 95 pounds, that's 225s, and 1 warm-up set with 135 pounds, that's 245s. And then I'll load the bar up to 175 and begin the 5x5 sets. So we just saw the first warm-up set. I'm trying to stretch my hips out again here to try and regain some flexibility in them for the next set of empty bar squats. That first squat was significantly better. I didn't lose balance on it. Yeah, it wasn't quite deep enough, but it was still better than the previous set. So at least the good news is my body's starting to warm up a little bit. And you see I lost balance on the last rep there. That happens quite a lot for me with empty bar squats. I feel like my ankle flexibility needs to still be higher. And today I was kind of off as well. My ankles have been feeling tight recently. Not entirely sure why, but I kind of attribute that a little bit to that. My last 5x5 workout, I didn't stumble at all during the empty bar squats. And you won't see me stumble once again, I believe. I think that was the only one there. And it's definitely better that that happens with empty weight. If that were to happen with 200 pounds on my back, I would have fallen over for sure. So here I've loaded it up again with 225s. That's 95 pounds total. Getting into position there. Unfortunately, my squat rack's not quite as big as most people's, so I can't take the 2.5 steps back, but I know exactly where I need to be. Trying to keep them slow and concentrated here, especially for the warm-up sets. For the working sets, I do try to be a little bit more explosive, but they're also heavier, so it's tougher to be more explosive. Yeah, I notice watching this back, I still get quite a lot of back rounding there. A little bit of hip flexibility still needed to get those hips back far enough to stop the rounding from happening. Definitely a lot of work to do on these squats, but that's why we're here. So here I'm just loading up the 45-pound plates for 135. So I believe this is my last warm-up set. I'm going to keep the sweater on until the end of this, and then I'll take it off. And I believe at that point my body, my muscles, and joints and everything are sufficiently warm enough to continue the working sets. You'll notice right away that as the weight gets heavier, my squats rapidly improve. It's definitely a function of the weight pushing down my body, helping me to reach depth and maintain balance on the front of my foot. I was supposed to do 3 reps here, but I forgot and did 5 instead. So I'm just getting ready here for the working set. Um, I believe it's 175. I might have to fix the video afterwards if I'm correct. Incorrect. Yeah, it's 175. So I'm just loading up 210s on each side for a total of 40 pounds. So as you can see, I'm starting to get pretty hot. I do have a fan running just off camera to the left there. You might see it when I move to a different viewpoint for some of these sets. But yeah, essentially, once I'm up to temperature, once I feel like I'm warm enough, I'll take my sweater off. So right now, in between the warm-up set and the working set, Stronglifts has you wait 3 minutes for a rest. So right now I'm doing this 3-minute rest, and then I'll begin the working set after that. If you don't like the sight of sweat, you're going to want to turn off the video because for some reason I really sweat aggressively in this workout, more than normal, a lot more than normal actually. Usually it's not too bad once I'm done my squats, but for some reason this workout was pretty insane. So yeah, if you don't like sweat, either deal with it or turn it off. Again, I'm really sorry for the lack of sound here. If I make any future videos, I will try to fix it, maybe get an external microphone or something. But yeah, I thought the webcam had a microphone in it, but apparently it doesn't. I might try to backfill with a little bit of music because otherwise it's going to be really awkwardly silent. So on my barbell, I've got rings that help me place my fingers, and for squats, I essentially place my ring finger on these rings on the barbell, and that gives me a sort of a starting point or an idea of where I should be. Center my body under the barbell, and then I lift and back out. One thing that I've learned from watching the other Stronglifts videos and other people squatting is never ever go forward out of a squat rack. Not because you could fall forward or fall backwards, but when you go to re-rack the weight, you have to step backwards into the weight holds, and yeah, it's not so good when you've got 300 pounds of weight on your back, and you've just finished 5 reps and you're out of breath and possibly even dizzy. So always step back out of the rack and step forward into it to re-rack the weight. I think that those were pretty good. Yeah, again, I have quite a lot of butt wink. Need more hip flexibility and more glute strength to fix that. But again, that's why we're doing this, beginners program to help fix that kind of issue. So in between each set, I'm going to rest between 1.5 and 3 minutes. I don't just immediately go for the go for the bar the second I hear the noise, the ding from the app. I sort of feel how my body feels. So if I'm good at 1 minute and 20 seconds and I'm feeling like I can go, then I'll just do it. If I'm good at 2 minutes, I'll just do it then. But I very rarely will wait longer than 3 minutes. If I hear the 3-minute bell go, I'll try to do the lift then, because if I wait any longer, it's kind of like prolonging the failure, and failure is important when it comes to lifting weights. So I don't want to wait, 10 minutes and then get every set, because that's what's going to happen, and the workout will take 3 hours. So it looks like I'm going for set 2 here. I believe set 3, 4, and 5, I move the camera so that you can see from the front. And again, I'm going to include timestamps for the beginning of all of my sets. The beginning of my warm-ups and all that kind of stuff, so that you can just jump around the video. If you're looking for something in particular, you don't have to watch the whole video through or scan through. I'm going to provide a little bit of information as to where you can find stuff. So upon reviewing this set of squats, I can see myself brace, knees stay in line with the toes, my hips go back, my body leans forward, the barbell is pretty well centered over my midfoot. It seems like it's a pretty decent set of squats in my opinion. Again, I'm a newbie, so not really an expert at how it looks. Oh, it looks like we're moving the camera. So I do play with the camera a little bit here, just to sort of try and find a position where you can see myself clearly. And I realize that this Halloween decoration's in the way. I'll fix that later when I'm done resting, because I am still quite tired from lifting the weight 5 times. So if I didn't mention it before, this video will be completely uncut. I'm not going to cut out any wait times, any rest times. The workout was 1 hour and 20 minutes. the video is an hour and 20 minutes. I'm going to include all my warm-ups. I'm going to include all my accessories, just to show what a typical-ish day is like, other than the mess of trying to set up the camera and everything in, at the beginning of the recording session. There we go. I decided just to take the ghost down. And I think I actually moved the camera into what I hope was a slightly better position. And it looks like I'm preparing for set 3 here. Unfortunately, there is that glaring light in the background. Like I said, I can't do anything about that. Otherwise, the basement would just be pitch black. But you can see my setup a little bit better from this angle. I position my ring fingers where they need to be. I use an open grip, not a closed grip, and then I position my body to be in the center of the weight. I will then lift the weight, and if it feels like it's unbalanced, I'm going to drop the weight right away and try to center myself again. Then I take a step back so that I center myself over the safeties. I take a deep breath in my stomach, brace, and then I do the squat. One thing I did notice after I started doing low bar squats is that my safeties are a little bit too high. But because of the construction of the squat rack that I have, there's literally nothing I can do about that. They can't go any lower. And I can't take them off. You'll probably notice I get progressively more winded every time I do a set. I think that's pretty normal, especially for somebody who's typically as out of shape and overweight as I am. When I did strong lifts last time, which was probably 2 or 3 years ago, I weighed 180. Now I'm just around 200. I have noticed that I can lift a lot more weight now, but I'm also more out of shape, heavier, and it's harder for me to regain my composure after a set of squats or really anything. In case you're wondering, the gear that I'm using, I'll link it all in the description of this video, but it's mostly Under Armour and Fitbit. So I moved the camera for you as much as I did for me, because I realized from my last set that I couldn't see my feet, or it was just out of frame doing the squats. And I want to be able to see the position of my feet when I review the video to see if anything can be corrected. Yeah, I think that those are okay squats. I don't see my knees caving in as much as I feel like they are, but yeah, that looks pretty decent. Every time I do a squat, I get dangerously close to those pins. There's been a few times when I restarted doing strong lifts and started doing low bar squats that I was uneven. I was stronger on one side than the other, and I would drop onto the pin on one side, and it would bounce me up. And it was quite jolting. Oh, so I think I only had the camera at the front for 2 sets, because I believe that we still have one more set. Yeah, otherwise I would be preparing for bench press right now. And you can see here I'm sweating profusely at this point. By the time I'm about halfway through my bench press, I'm sweating a ridiculous amount. That's not normal for me. It might have been, could just be because of the day. I was feeling a little bit off when I did this workout today. Not exactly perfect. Yeah, I don't know, maybe the temperature. It's getting hot here in Alberta. It was 20 degrees yesterday and I think 15 today. So definitely a lot warmer than when I started in December or January of this year. Or when did I start? I started in March, beginning of March. One of the interesting things I've noticed about myself, I reviewed some of my old footage from around 2015 or so when I did strong lifts before. And I'm a lot more muscular now than I was then. I think that has to do with the protein that I've been using. I've been getting shooting between 100 and 150 grams of protein a day. Back then in 2015, I didn't really care. I was mostly focused on losing weight. But I definitely think that the increased protein has helped not only increase my muscle mass, but also it's helped with being able to lift weight. I think here I realized the camera was, it looked like I was standing at an angle. I think the camera was kind of sitting at a weird angle. So here I'm preparing for my 5th set. I think when I take it off the rack, I think I realize that it's kind of unbalanced. So you might see that here. My barbell's not the greatest. It has some issues with balance. So sometimes, even though you center yourself perfectly, you can see there I stood up and immediately I felt that the right side was higher than the left side. I think it actually happens again here. The barbell's not perfectly centered. It was kind of a cheaper one, and I think it's kind of loose and maybe the ends need to be tightened a bit. But here you can see I go for it. And it seems like the squats are okay. That was a little bit too far forward than I would like. Also, since I moved the camera back, you can no longer see both of my feet. I hadn't realized that until just now. Kind of unfortunate. Yeah, those were pretty good sets. Just marking it as done there, and um, I think I went off camera there to blow my nose. And it's possible I might be getting a cold because, yeah, last time I was doing this poorly, I felt like I was getting a cold there. But yeah, here I'm going to start preparing for bench press. So I'm going to take all the weight off the rack with the exception of the 45-pound plates. I'm going to leave those, one leaning up against the wall and one leaning up against the couch that the camera's sitting on right now. because they're going to be used later for the working set of bench press, which is 135. So here you can see me dropping the bar into the bench press position. That's most comfortable for me. Like I said, unfortunately, this squat rack's not exactly the greatest. It doesn't have very fine adjustments. Otherwise, things would be a lot easier for me. But it's what I have to work with right now. So it's what I've got, and not going to complain too much about it. So for bench press warm ups, I'm going to do 4 sets. One is going to be 40, two are going to be 45 pounds, but for 5. One is 95 pounds for 5, and one is 115 pounds for 3. Then I'll rest 3 minutes, and then I'll begin the working set of 135 for 5x5. So this is interesting. I don't think I've ever seen myself do a bench press before. Um, Definitely have some things to work on, mostly hip flexibility, spine flexibility. I do arch my back as much as possible during the bench press. It's kind of hard to see because of the color of my clothes, the color of the bench, and the angle of the camera, but there is definitely an arch there, although it's not the greatest arch in the world. And I do try to leg drive. It's pretty much impossible with no weight on the bar, but I do it later on when I'm at 135 a little bit more efficiently. So here you can see me loading up the rack again with the 225-pound plates for 95 pounds bench press. I think I was sweating so much during this workout that I actually went to go get more towels. It looked like I hit my head there, but that was actually me adjusting my earphones. I don't hit my head on the bar on the way down, but it kind of looked like it just from the way I reached up to my head. But no, I was adjusting my headphones when I came down. So for the last warm-up set, I'm just going to add a 10-pound plate to each side. That's 115 total. And then I'm just going to do 3 reps, which is normally what you do for your last warm-up set. I just screwed up with the squats. But yeah, normally you do most of your sets are going to be 5 and then 3 for the last one for your warm-ups. Yeah, again, I think I wasn't quite feeling top notch today when I did this workout because I kind of struggled to get into position for the bench press. Usually I'm not too bad. So in reviewing the video, I can see it's pretty clear that I was struggling a lot to get into position. I think that was pretty common for all of the reps, including the working sets. But I do get them all. although a couple were pretty tough. And last time I did 135, I didn't have an issue with it. So yeah, I'm going to attribute it to I'm possibly not feeling the greatest for this workout. A lot of people will tell you not to put a collar on when you're doing bench press because the bench could if the barbell falls on you, you can push one side up to drop the weight, and then push the other side up to drop the weight to get out from under it. If you put collars on, you'll be stuck. And bench press has a high probability of failure in 5x5. But I've got safeties that are pretty much perfectly placed for me. If I drop the bar, straight down, it lands on the safeties without crushing me. I think I turned the music up there. I'm sort of standing around trying to figure out why the heck am I so sweaty? Because I'm not doing anything different compared to my last workout. And for my warm-up sets, I realized I was struggling a lot with my feet slipping on my yoga mat there. So I took my socks off to try and get a little bit more grip. So normally when I work out, I don't usually tuck my shirt into my shorts like that. This doesn't really impact anything, but for this particular video, I just wanted to make sure I could see my hip more clearly. So I'm actually wearing black running tights with a black shirt and light colored shorts. That way I can see the hip hinge a little bit more with more contrast. So here I'm preparing for my first set. This will be the first time I've seen myself bench press this much weight. Setting up my arch. Oh, I got distracted there. Looked like my kid walked through the frame. Here I'm contemplating, can I really get this thing off? But no problem. There was a leg drive there, okay. I wasn't sure if that was clear. Definitely struggling a lot. But they're coming out. Yeah, I'm excited to see the viewpoint from the little table on the right side of the frame there because yeah, I definitely have a lot of work to do in this bench press. So here I don't think I had too many problems with the actual pressing. So I don't think I wait too long between sets. I think it's about a minute and a half for each set. Yeah, the reason I reach up to my head sometimes after laying down on the bench is because the direction change seems to knock my headphones out a little bit every time because I have wireless earbuds. So here we go for set 2. Let's see how it turns out. I think that's not too terrible. A little too much hip lift there. That's something I'm conscious of and trying to fix. Yeah, I'm gonna be feeling this workout for sure. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, you can kind of make. Yeah, you can make out the arch a little bit there. It's not terrible. Could be better. And there's me trying to get a leg drive. So you can see me slipping there. It'll become pretty apparent why in a second here. I was trying to get leg drive, and when I was pushing, I was actually sliding the yoga mat. So I basically at this point decided, screw that. We're gonna go with the concrete floor with my feet, and hopefully that'll provide a little bit more grip for my feet to push. Um, if that's not working, I'm probably gonna try doing these bench presses in some sort of shoe because you need to have leg drive to be able to do a bench press efficiently. Good. So here I've moved to the front view, to the top view, and in a couple minutes here I should be able to start the third or fourth set. I can't remember which. Yeah, I'm definitely starting to get tired, which is not usual for me. I'm sitting here thinking, holy crap, I'm only halfway through this through this entire workout, and I'm already feeling completely shot. But I'm gonna finish it anyway and see how things go. The good news is the barbell rows go significantly better than these bench press. Although I don't fail anything, it certainly doesn't feel good, and I could feel my form slipping at almost every corner. So there you can see me positioning my arms. I am playing with this a little bit. Every time I do a bench press, I sort of play around with my arm positioning. Right now I'm doing with my pinky fingers on the rings of the barbell. And watching the back, that's actually not too bad because I do get my upper arms are parallel, 90-degree angle, roughly. It's just tough on the wrist because usually I'm doing more of a narrow grip. And my wrists are bending to grip the barbell. They have to bend kind of inward at a weird angle. The reason I was playing with the bench position there is because something I noticed on the last set was it felt like I was too far away from the barbell, and I had to in order to unrack it, I had to push it quite significantly forward to center it over my middle chest. So that was a little bit awkward. So I tried to play with the bench position a little bit here for the last set, just to try and get it in a better position, so I'm not having to move the weight so much away from the racks. Usually, when you do a really heavy bench press, you have somebody who helps you unrack the bar, so that you're not doing a half rep at the beginning of your set. There, I was just grab it here and push out like this. Well, that's not actually how it works. The bar's too high up for that. I don't use a spotter here because I'm not afraid of dropping the weight on myself. I use a closed grip, not a suicide grip. And I think that the weight's low enough that there's no real danger. So I'm not too worried about using a spotter or anything like that at this point. Okay, just trying to get the arch in my back there, trying to get my hands positioned, get some strength in my wrists by gripping hard. And not too bad. Gotta practice that leg drive a lot. Until they're getting hard. And I think that's it. Yeah, so that was the last set. So here I'm actually just preparing for a barbell row, and it's actually funny. The squat or the bench press and the barbell row warm up are the exact same weight for this workout. So I'm basically just gonna just unrack the barbell exactly how it is and drop it to the floor for some pendlay rows. So because I was out camping the week prior, I hadn't done any workouts with barbell, any powerlifting workouts. So I deloaded quite a lot for this week. So normally my barbell row is about 185, 180-ish, and here it was deloaded down to 160. So for that, I only need one warm-up set, and that's 135. As you start to increase the weight of the working weight, you increase the amount of warm-up sets that you do. There, I'm just like, screw, I mean, why would I take off all the weight just to re-rack it? And I'm going to move the camera back before I begin the next workout. And there's me looking back. I'm like, I can see that table is in the way. Let's move it up here. Nope. There is a dent in the cement floor there from from us dropping deadlift weight. Not too good to do in the basement because unfortunately the cement floor can get damaged from it, but when we eventually move our gym to a better location in the house, then we don't have to worry about that. So the key with pendlay rows is to keep the back straight, and I think I did a pretty good job there. It's okay to use a little bit of leg drive, but don't stand up. It's not a deadlift. So here I'm just looking, what's my working weight for this? Oh, it's 160. So I'm going to add a 10 and a 2.5 to each side. So again, every time you rest between a warm-up set and a workout set, you're going to do a 3-minute rest. Here I am trying to get this thing back up onto that ledge because I could see that it was covered by the table there. Like, nope, it doesn't. So I'm just going to move the table. I'm like, yeah, that's good. That's centered. My pre-workout gives me quite the pump. It starts to happen about closer to the end of the workout after you've done all the sets. Then you can start to see a pump form on all the muscles that are being used. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare for this first set of pendlay rows here. I tried to center my midfoot roughly below the bar with my feet just about hip width, between hip width and shoulder width apart. I don't lean down quite as far as a bench press. I try to get my hips up in the air. And then I take a deep breath. I pull my shoulders up and then lift. It's important with all these exercises to brace your breath. You want to hold deep breath and then brace your stomach muscles. So that first set looked pretty good from my point of view. Don't think there was too many issues. I do have issues with my left shoulder. After I do bench press, my left shoulder's pretty sore and tired. And then when I do the rows, it kind of pulls it in the opposite direction, and I can feel it feels like a knuckle or a joint that needs to be cracked. Oh, here I've resolved the issue. I put a I put a weighted belt under that weight. Unfortunately, that does mean every time I drop it, it's going to land on that belt and then roll back towards me. But it's not such a big deal when it's only 160. I do feel like I kind of rushed through this exercise. I probably could have taken a little bit more time. but I have two accessory sets that I also need to get to. And I don't feel like I did too terrible. I think near the end of the sets, there was a little bit of backgrounding going on there. So I feel like that was an okay set. One thing to keep in mind with barbell rows is you want to have a death grip on the bar. It needs to be so tight that your knuckles are turning white, and you don't ever let go of that death grip because um, you don't want to curl your wrists when you pull the bar up. If you find that you're lifting the bar and then curling your wrists to get it the rest of the way, like a T-Rex or something, like a T-Rex pose, you're going to either hurt your forearm muscles by pulling all that weight, or you're going to, best case scenario, you're cheating your back muscles. Um, if you curl your wrist or if you feel like you need to curl it, well, the moral of the story is never curl your wrist. So if you have a death grip on the bar, your wrists won't curl because your muscles are all pulling evenly on your wrists. So you should keep them straight the whole time, all the way up and all the way down. You're going to pull the bar straight to your mid chest and then drop it back to the floor. And you're using your back muscles and a little bit of your biceps. And for heavier weights, because you can't break 200 pounds, or most likely, unless you're really strong, you can't break 200 pounds with your biceps off the floor. So when you get to extremely heavy weights, you can use your legs and your hips a little bit to pop the weight up off the floor, give it a little bit of inertia, and then you can do the row. So you can see here, try to get the hip up, try to get the shoulders up and back, and then pull. And you want to set that every time. Hold your breath, brace. You're going to pull up, go back down, then you can release your breath. Then hold your breath again, brace, pull up, release, go back down, then you can release your breath. So you're going to keep your breath held the entire time. So I feel like that was about a minute and a half rest there. Gonna center myself over the bar again. Feet hip width apart. Hands just outside the shoulders or just inside the shoulders, lined up, I guess I should say, with the shoulders. And then same thing, get the hips up, get the upper back up and pull. That's essentially all you have to do every time. It looks simple, but when you get to heavier weights, it becomes very easy for you to cheat yourself. There are many ways you can cheat yourself. You can see me doing it there. Is you kind of bring your chest down towards the bar by curling your back a little bit. I think generally that's accepted. a little bit, but when you get to the point where you're arching your back, or curling your back downwards, trying to reach the bar, and the bar is only coming, half an inch off the ground or a few inches off the ground, then you're really just cheating yourself and ego lifting at that point. You really need to try hard to get those elbows up to the ceiling and get those back muscles working. That's really what the barbell row is for. So if you're standing up with your legs to pop the barbell up like an Olympic lift, and or if you're curling your wrists, or something to try and cheat yourself for those extra couple inches at the top, then it's not working and you need to deload the weight and go down to something lighter. One thing you might notice right away is that it's almost impossible for you to do a barbell row like this, a pendlay row, unless you have big weights, tall weights. Like these 45s are pretty tall for me, so they position the center of the barbell pretty much right at the middle of my shin, which is perfect for pendlay rows. But if you're doing something lower, like say 95 pounds, well, my 25s are not high enough to do that, and so it makes it awkward. It's a little too low for a pendlay row. There's a couple options. One, if you're at a gym, they probably have bumper pads or bumper plates, which you should be using anyway for anything ground related. You should always be using bumper plates. But bumper plates are usually the right height for this kind of exercise, and they come in all the different weights. So you can get a 5-pound bumper plate, a 10-pound, 25-pound, 45, 50-pound, doesn't matter. The other option is you can do bent over rows. I don't demonstrate those in this video, but you can look them up online. They're essentially a row where the barbell comes at a slightly different angle. It works out the lower part of your back muscles instead of the upper part. And you can't do nearly as much weight with a bent over row as you can with a pendlay row. So I believe, in my opinion, these are more efficient. So that would have been the last set. There's a bonus deadlift there for you because I'm too lazy to unrack all the weight when it's on the floor. So I'm actually done with the barbell now. I'm going to unrack everything and put it away into its storage position until the next person needs it to work out. But I'm going to do 2 accessories. So my accessories are something that the Stronglifts program doesn't provide. I don't necessarily recommend that anyone I don't recommend anyone does this necessarily. It's something that I've identified is a weak point in my workout. And what I do is I do 3 sets of 8 dumbbell flies supersetted with seated dumbbell press. So I'll do 1 set of 8 of flies immediately followed by 1 set of 8 of dumbbell press, and then I'll rest for about 3 minutes, and then I'll do that 3 times. So these concentration exercises are not included in Stronglifts. It's primarily a powerlifting program, but I've identified that my chest muscles are particularly weak and shoulder muscles are particularly weak. So I've added some of these pressing exercises to help strengthen those things, in between the normal exercises. That way, my chest muscles and shoulder muscles are going to be a little bit more sore tomorrow, but at the same time, they're going to build a little bit faster. And I'm doing lighter weights. So I believe here it's 25 pounds flies and 35 pounds seated dumbbell press, incline seated dumbbell press. So in this case, I'm doing a lower rate with a little bit of a medium to high reps. 8 is fairly low, but it's higher than Stronglifts. So I call it a medium rep range. I guess high would be closer to 20 usually. So normally with supersets, you have everything ready. Unfortunately, my gym is pretty small, and I don't have whack loads of dumbbells. And actually, I grabbed 2 5s to increase from 25 to 35. Then I realized, well, actually, I need 4 because I have 2 dumbbells. Oops. So here I am looking for more 5s, and funny enough, I actually only have 3. So I used 2 5s on one dumbbell, and then a 5 and two 2 5s, 2.5s on the other dumbbell. It was really my only option, but it worked. So for the rest of my sets, I don't take this long. Ideally for a superset, you want to go from one workout straight into the next one with a minimal amount of time in between. But unfortunately, we don't always have the option of all the equipment necessary for something like that. So here I'm just there's a little bit of preparation between the two sets. Even in these accessories, you'll see very quickly why I've added them, because my chest muscles are significantly weaker than my triceps and shoulders, because the incline seated press was a lot easier than the fly. And about midway through doing the the set of 8 flies, I was like, well, I'm not gonna finish this, and I don't. So funnily enough, the only fail you're gonna see in this video, um, other than my body composition, is the flies. For the last set, I only get 4. I think in retrospect, I probably should have done the seated dumbbell press first instead of the flies first, because it's quicker to take weight off than it is to put it on. I could have easily removed the 10 pounds from each dumbbell, lowered the seat down, and then did the flies, and then loaded everything up and got it ready for the next set of presses. So in retrospect, I'm probably going to switch them around from next time I do it. It looks like we're getting ready for round 2 of dumbbell flies. Let's see how this goes. You could see for the last set there, I was struggling a lot with that blue mat getting in my way, because normally um, I don't have the bench in this position. Usually it's actually on the blue mat, but I wanted it to be at this angle for the video. I think other than being a little bit shaky, those were pretty much good. I haven't gotten a lot of practice with dumbbell flies in the past. So here I am. I'm going to try and rapidly switch here. Minimal amount of wait time if I can. What I should do is get another set of dumbbell bars, and then I can have them both loaded up and ready to go. And as quickly as possible, pretty much straight into the seated recline press, dumbbell press. I think that those went pretty well. Definitely could increase the weight on those a little bit. So right now we're nearing the end of the video here. I'm just preparing for the last set because I'm only doing 3 sets of 8, 3 supersets of 8. So it's a lot of volume, or for me, it's a lot of volume, this workout, and it's a lot of time here. We'll see how the end of this video goes, because when I tried to stop the recording, Bandicam actually crashed. I was terrified that I lost the whole thing. I was like, well, that's game over, because I'm not doing the workout again. But for some reason it crashed, but I think it saved the file anyway, which at first I thought was corrupted. I'm like, wow, that's 4.5 gigabytes just down the drain. But it turns out it was playable, so here we are. And there I am contemplating life, the universe, and everything, wondering if I can do this last set, which I can't. So here we go again for 25-pound dumbbell flies, and it'll be a fail. Unless, of course, the recording is corrupted, which would just be hilarious. Here we go. If the recording is corrupted, I can see it ending. 4, and it stops right at the last try. So sorry there's no more footage, but basically I get the last 8 reps of seated overhead press, uh, and then I cut the video there. So you're not missing a whole lot, but here's a picture of a goat, just in case that's what you like. But yeah, so I'll include some descriptions, some timestamps in the description of this video, and a few other things. But thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any feedback.